Have you ever heard the term marry the mortgage and date the rate? What does that really mean, and why do you care? Well, if you're a seller and you have something to sell, you're going to care about what the buyers are doing nowadays. And if you're a buyer, you might be playing this waiting game. And so let me just pose this scenario to you. So what we've had over the last 2 years is a real estate market with increasing values. Historically, over time, real estate increases in value. Here in the Northeast section of the United States, and specifically Ohio, our rates of return on our real estate is about 4% a year. That's a good number that you could bet on. An increase of value, 4% year over year over time. And so right now what we also are seeing was a rising interest rate market. We just went through that. We saw rates of 2.5% on a 30-year fixed mortgage that right now are sitting at about 6.9, and they were a high of 8. And if your credit is not amazing, you probably got rate quotes of above 8, 9-ish%. And so what we have is a lot of buyers who are saying, well, I don't want an 8% interest rate on a 30-year mortgage. I want that 3%. And so I'm going to wait until the rates come back down. Well, they will come back down. We just don't know for, how long that'll take and for what dollar amount they're going to come back to. Gary Keller got up on stage last year and said that he predicts we'll probably never see 4% again, and we'll be lucky to see 5%. And we'll probably almost always see 6. See, historically over the last 30 years, the interest rates have averaged out to be somewhere between 5 and 7%. If you go back to the 80s and 90s, 15 to 20% interest rates was not normal. And just 2 years ago, 2.5% rate was not normal either. The 5 to 7 is the normal range. But let me have you think about this. Let's pretend that you're a buyer right now and you were looking at property last summer for $250,000. You probably experienced some level of competition with other buyers that were doing the same thing. They were trying to get in on this market of low interest rates and wanting to buy a house. And we've been suffering with lack of inventory. And for every house, there's probably 2 or 3 buyers, and you may have even experienced some competing situations where you have to be aggressive if you wanted to win the house, right? People were dropping home inspections. They were putting up large earnest deposits. They were doing escalation clauses and bidding above the asking price in order to win the house. Well, conversely now, the average days on market are rising, and you might have more ability as a buyer to negotiate the sale because you're not competing against 3 or 4 other buyers. But if you wait for the rate to come back down, guess what everybody else is going to do? They're going to jump back in when rates come back down, which is going to release that pent-up buyer demand again, and you're going to compete. And so the marry the mortgage and date the rate is obtain the property now. Negotiate a good price because the house has probably been on the market for more than 2 weekends. Do a home inspection. Negotiate some terms after you learn a little bit about the property. And take your time to find a house. You actually have a day or two to get to the house, where that didn't happen a couple summers ago. You had to go right now. I used to say you can either sleep on it or you can sleep in it. But actually right now you have time, most likely, to sleep on it. And so use that to your advantage and then marry the mortgage, pick the house. And when and if the rates come back down, refinance. That's the date part. Versus trying to time the interest rate market till the interest rates drop, and then you and a lot of other buyers are all going to rush back out, try and find the right house, negotiate a contract, bid against each other, drop a home inspection, and probably pay more for the house. That if you just would have done it now at $250 and you're competing and you have to go above asking to get the house in the scenario B, it's probably not going to, not going to be in your best interest. That's my 2 cents. And know your numbers. If you don't know the numbers, run the numbers. And if you don't know how to run the numbers or interpret the numbers, then call me, ask. I know how to do that. I know people that can help you do that and understand the math. It's a big math problem that we want to help you, help you through that process. It's not just about opening a door and finding the light switches, which I'm actually pretty good at. But that's all I got. So when you think real estate and you want help, we're pretty creative and we know what we're doing.